The first Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer dropped this week, which everyone, and I mean everyone, has something to say about it. Then Bungie might be in some dire straits if Destiny doesn't perform better and fast. Then we talk about World of Warcraft's Season of Discovery so far.
Hi, I'm Josh, and I leaked the GTA 6 trailer on Twitter.
My name's Andy, and this is Video Game Tango. Welcome back, everybody,
Yes,
to Video Game Tango.
the tangiest of video game podcasts.
It's true. It's very tangy, and it's the tangioist. So, little something happened this week. I don't know if you've heard about it yet. Unlikely. It's like, little thing called Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer dropped.
Yeah, no, I mean,
It didn't quite break the internet,
not quite.
but it broke a lot of people's fucking brains, which we will get to. But Josh and I actually had not watched the Grand Theft Auto 6 trailer
He saved
until
it for this evening.
mere moments ago. And we went through and we broke it down in sections. So we looked at every scene.
I've watched it 15 times.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Damn. We watched it with chat, and everybody gave their 2 cents as far as the trailer goes. So first off, obviously, the trailer looks incredible.
Beautiful.
Graphically speaking, it's fucking out of this world.
Yeah, I honestly feel like it's probably pushing the limits of what this generation of console can do.
Yeah, I mean, there are certain parts of that trailer that it's really hard to discern whether it's actually in-game footage or whether it's like real life.
Like a video footage.
Yeah, no, it's pretty incredible. There are a few times that I looked at it and I thought, well, that looks pretty pre-rendered. As far as I know, that's all in-engine. Now, in-engine doesn't mean in-game, so what the game looks like ultimately when it comes out, we'll see. But I wouldn't be too surprised if what we got this week isn't really, really close to what the final product is going to look like.
Yeah, I can't imagine it being too far off. The mechanics on the hair, there's a few scenes in the trailer where they does a hair flip, and it's it looks like real hair.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
That scene with when the chick's twerking on top of the car and she looks over at the camera and you slow it down in slow motion as you watch the hair dance across her face.
Yeah.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And that's, just from the mechanics output of the game. We also, with the trailer, we did start to get a little bit of a taste of who the protagonists are and what Vice City looks like now. Because, I mean, it's been 20 years since we've been to Vice City in game. And
sorry about that.
And nearly, and over 40, around 40 years if it's holding true to a current timeline, than 40 years worth of time in game since we've been back to Vice City. So I'm excited to see what the rest of the city looks like. Here up on screen here for everyone seeing, we're seeing this hair flip here. Look at how it moves in the wind. Yeah,
the hair physics are on point, and that definitely, adds to the realism. It seemed they just nailed it. I mean, you got hair physics with Lara Croft and stuff, that was all great, but this is something else. This is an entirely new beast.
Yeah.
What used to be water physics back in the day and realistic looking water, they're doing for hair now, right? We got water down pat. Water looks real in games now. And now in the movement of the hair. Now, what's impressive about that is, generally speaking, every strand of hair has to be rendered, right, individually to get realistic hair physics. So doing that has always been intensely complicated compute wise. And it seems like we're getting to the point where we can render ultra realistic hair. And that was something that was really setting back the realism when it came to graphics in video games.
Yeah. That's the physics, like we said, on hair is on point. The ability, where you're into it. I'm brain farting on. I just had it. It was on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, so the physics on it look incredible.
Yeah.
And we see there's at least 7 actual news stories are just part of that trailer. Like they are legit.
They use legitimate real world events for a lot of the trailer.
Like we are like legit just getting Florida man stories as the trailer. So that's pretty incredible that they're using real world inspiration. Of course, I mean art reflects life, reflecting art. You know, so it's amazing.
Give it to Rockstar to be the ones to really do it. You know, something that we've seen Rockstar do in the past, but mostly in the way of the talk radio stations on the radio and that kind of thing, is they talk about stories that are obviously reflections of real stories from real life, or the ongoing, you know, issues in real life, or, you know, the discourse in politics in real life. You know, there's always something that's like, when they talk on the radio, it's like an allegory to what's going on at the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's always been a mirror up to society, kind of like how South Park does, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And so getting into some of the things that we saw, I'm thinking it's very much because we saw our main protagonist, or at least one of the main protagonists. We didn't get much on the gentleman fella, but we know our main protagonist is a female. Her name's Lucia. We see her in a prison jumpsuit at the start of it. We see her and a fella doing crime. You know, that's always been the secret ingredient to a Grand Theft Auto game is crime.
It's in the title. Yeah. I mean, Grand Theft Auto is a crime. Yeah.
You know, building up there. And I honestly feel like there's going to be a romantic element between these two. I don't know if we're going to get like a Franklin and Michael and Trevor situation where you're splitting play time between these two as you're going through the city, or if he is more just of a secondary character.
Well, Rockstar's talked about that in previous interviews, and they said that is something that they will be doing with Grand Theft Auto 6, whether they've stuck to that or not, because those interviews came out a couple years ago now at this point. Whether that's something that they plan on doing with Grand Theft Auto 6 seems, you know, we'll find out eventually. But that is what they said what they intended to do, at least. Was to have moments where you go back and forth between characters, but they did say that they were changing it up a little bit for 6. So,
and what's also exciting, because we're just getting right now, we're talking about how pretty it is, you know, extra polygons, more rent, you know, all the good of it looking nice, but we're also in this game getting a significant upgrade to the AI of things like the police, how they operate, how they chase you. We're getting a huge upgrade into the crash dynamics of the cars and how they destruct. It just, I don't know. It's very exciting. But like with any Rockstar release, it doesn't come without a little bit of controversy, of course, you know?
It's
like even the release of the trailer, before we get into the real controversy, it had to be released early because now a closed down account on Twitter started premiering the trailer a day ahead of schedule. So they shut down the account, and then Rockstar figured the best way to combat this was just to release it themselves. So they actually released it early. So, I mean, already, even with the start of it, a little controversy.
Yeah, I checked the Rockstar Twitter account, and that didn't have anything addressing the leak that happened, which I'm a little bit surprised about, because people were already saying that it was one of the developers' sons that had gotten a hold of the trailer and leaked it early. That so far, I haven't been able to confirm. I haven't seen any source that was able to link to like an actual post from anybody that was like
it's connected to.
Or I would expect that Rockstar would be the ones to talk about the leak. But at any rate, that's unconfirmed yet. But it does seem like it came from relatively inside or somebody close to a developer at the very least. So yeah, started out with controversy. So they ended up having to put the trailer out earlier than they intended to. They did do it as a premiere too, which I imagine would have been wild because with YouTube premieres you have a chat. Yeah. So as the trailer was premiering, I can only imagine how many people were watching it. Which brings us to the fact that it broke the world record for a 24-hour video, or how many views in 24 hours of video got on YouTube. Excluding music videos do exceptionally well, especially from big artists like Taylor Swift. She puts out a new single on YouTube, and that thing blows right up.
Oh yeah,
but we're talking even outside of like Mr. Beast numbers. This thing was a juggernaut. Now, according to different sources, I'd like to see the official Guinness Book source, but I haven't been able to find that either. It's between 74, which is the lowest reported that I've seen so far, and 90 million in 24 hours.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So
wow. A few people saw the trailer.
Yeah, and immediately, I mean, even before it released officially, there was also the leak that happened on Twitter, and that like Elon Musk addressed it and talked about how they had to activate additional servers just because it was like huge, massive. Now, of course, every Grand Theft Auto release is just enormous. They've only gotten bigger as time has gone.
Yeah.
Because the fan base gets larger, and now the OG fan base from days of Grand Theft Auto 1 through 3 we have money
like,
now.
Some of us are some people our age are now playing this game with their kids.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, wow, and we've been waiting 10 years for this. Grand Theft Auto 5 has only gotten more pop. It's sustained its popularity with online. Like in Grand Theft Auto 5, we could be talking about like the largest video game like release in ever. Like that's going to be.
It is absolutely one of the top earning video games of all time, and easily one of the most popular video games of all time. And especially over the last 10 years with like reviving it with things like with the RP servers. GTA RP is huge. All of the biggest streamers get in on it. It is its own thing, really, at the end of the day. You have these heavily modded Grand Theft Auto 5 servers run by teams of administrators, so the top millionaires on Twitch can all get together and play. And they've like
cops and robbers, or
whatever, or just take on real jobs. I mean, there were people literally millionaire streamers
doing hot dog vendors.
Yeah, working at burger shop.
Yeah,
so. Yeah, no, it's really interesting. The zeitgeist that is Grand Theft Auto continues with Grand Theft Auto 6. Going back to controversy, though, there is #ban GTA 6 that has been trending for the last 2 days. Interesting. I mean, not surprising, but interesting, especially because a lot of it seems really oddly focused. So if you look up ban GTA 6 right now on Twitter, the first thing that comes up is a gentleman that's being generous by the name of Jackson Hinkle. Says, if you stand with Palestine, keep #ban GTA 6 trending. One of the next posts is, why are the Zionists at Rockstar Games releasing this sexualized video game for children in America? Get #ban GTA 6 trending right now. Of course, it is the same person. Again, Jackson Hinkle with GTA 6 is haram Zionist propaganda. So people are using this. They're already weaponizing Grand Theft Auto 6 in a way that
seems
it's nonsensical.
Yeah, it seems not. Like you said, nonsensical. Like I can understand, mothers against violence or patriot moms for America, like in between squeezing quotes from Hitler onto their webpage would find a place to complain about this, but it's like, it's not a game for kids. It has a mature rating, which is 17. It's not for kids.
But already, it's obviously not for kids.
Yeah.
The key here is don't buy it for your child.
Yeah, don't buy it for your kids. If you have a problem with it, don't buy it for your kids.
Yeah. And then, of course, as Konahula in chat says, seems on par for Twitterati. 100%. I mean, people are just weaponizing this to further their own cause. Like the first one that I read about, if you stand with Palestine, keep hashtag ban GTA 6 trending, has been viewed 3.3 million times, has 28,000 likes, 10,000 shares, and 3,500 comments.
I mean, I don't like. There should be some proof with that, or some sourcing.
Yeah, there is none. There's absolutely none,
or something before you just lay claims like that at somebody.
Yeah. And of course, politicians are getting in on this too. They're talking about ban GTA 6. Well, you guys actually can, right? Now you'd have to go through the legal system in order to do so, but because Rockstar would inevitably countersue. But all that said, yeah, I mean, GTA 6 has always been controversial. Now it's just GTA.
Yeah, for sure. Like when you said there's a controversy and a talk about banning it, I thought it was for that.
For the violence or the twerking. Right?
That craziness about the algorithm that the CEO was talking about hours spent and perceived worth of owning the title and all that. I was like, okay, I can see why people would boycott like their biggest game to be like, don't ever talk about that algorithm ever again. I can see that, but this seems, unless there's proof of it, like that seems weird, you know?
So I watched a segment from the Tim Pool podcast where he talks about how Grand Theft Auto is not catering to its audience because its audience doesn't want all of this modern woke bullshit. And he even questions the sexuality / sex of the antagonists that we see in the trailer. Questions whether they are trans or not, and then starts talking about how, of course, she would be because we live in woke modern day culture, and it's just, GTA 6, it's controversial enough without throwing additional bullshit at it, like unsubstantiated garbage.
Yeah, and you know what? If I'm not substantiating the claim that Lucia, the character, is trans or whatever.
There's no evidence towards that.
There's no evidence towards it. And if there was, big fucking deal.
Yeah.
Tell a good story.
Yeah.
Like, God forbid somebody other than a fucking straight white guy see some representation somewhere. Jeez-a-loo.
But that wasn't the only issue that the likes of like Tim Pool and Ben Shapiro had. They're also disappointed by the lack of white representation. Now, I got all of listen, I watched the trailer this evening, just prior to the podcast for the first time.
Yeah.
And I had actually heard reactions from far right commentary and otherwise before having checked out the trailer myself. And a lot of them were upset that it was very brown. Also the quartering, he was the one that said that. He said it,
it's
said
Florida. Even white people there are kind of brown.
Sure. But he even said GTA 6 is looking mighty brown. Well, sure, man, but like is Grand Theft Auto 6 really a time to be soapboxing race issue? I feel like it is fairly representative of all people. There are a lot of white people in this, like a lot. I would arguably, like most of the Florida man things that happen are white people.
Yeah, like there's plenty.
Yeah.
No, they're just.
I think it had fairly equal representation in as far as a 1 minute and 30-second gameplay trailer is concerned.
Yeah, and that's a huge leap to make off of a 1 minute and 30-second game trailer. Yeah. And B, we don't, just because her name's Lucia, maybe one of who, it doesn't matter. I'm not even going to go down the road. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Who gives a crap what her ethnicity is if it's a good story? Like, and again, God forbid somebody other than a straight white guy get some representation, because other than Franklin in the last game, I can't think of anybody as a main character in Grand Theft Auto who wasn't a white guy.
Who wasn't a white guy,
Yeah,
for sure.
Like, God forbid.
Yeah. No, listen, at the end of the day, we're just talking about it because it's happening. But at the end of the day, racists will be racist.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
A stripe is a stripe.
I mean, wherever we can, we got to call them out for being ridiculous. I mean, like that's, so.
You can criticize a game for bad graphics, for bad gameplay, for bad story, for bad narrative, for bad character design. You can, for being too much money, for being too little money. I mean, like the CEO of Rockstar has talked about monetizing this differently than any other video game previously. So there are a lot of things that you can criticize, but like, let's not be ridiculous here. Obviously you're not a Zionist that is against Palestine if you played Grand Theft Auto 6. No matter where you lie on that spectrum, in that ongoing conflict, Grand Theft Auto 6 has no impact on that. If there winds up being some truth down this rabbit hole where the CEO is shipping bombs over there or something, then we'll of course reverse
address
our
that
stance when it's appropriate.
Yeah, we'll address that when it's appropriate. But like at this point, that just seems like an unsubstantiated claim to try and jump on one of the hugest media releases, in modern
to call history. Grand Theft Auto woke at any time is fucking stupid.
Yeah,
It's ridiculous. So yeah, I guess that's the news regarding GTA 6, the trailer that dropped. This is the only media that we've gotten other than leaks so far.
Yeah.
This is the only thing to officially come out of Rockstar so far.
Rockstar, right?
And already the world is on fire for no good reason.
They did give a release date of 2025. So pretty general. We don't know if that means, Q1. It probably means closer to holiday time, 2025. But
Rockstar can put this game out anytime they want.
Yep.
They are not beholden to the rigmarole that is following the seasons to make sure that you maximize your sales. This game will sell gangbusters no matter when they sell it, because
and will for a long time.
For sure. Especially if they have a similar online component to GTA 5. So which we don't even know. Like,
we don't even
really
know if that's gonna
details out on this game other than what we have seen so far. So it's to be expected. They also showed a lot of the footage from the perspective of like a cell phone grab, like a Instagram reel or a Facebook reel, whatever those are, TikTok, etc. It does make me wonder if the cell phone will play a little bit more
of a role in the game, because like it's in the last couple of games it's been there as an accessory to call contacts or whatnot, and it did actually start to play a bit of a role in the last game, but I am immensely excited to see more of this, because Rockstar is going to be giving us nibbles and crumbs as the year comes out.
And even on the official Rockstar Games page, this is Grand Theft Auto 6 Trailer 1. That is how it's titled. I would expect to see more trailers as we get more news, but there will probably be another hype trailer at the middle of next year, and probably another big ass final trailer right before the game comes out, or in the coming months before the game comes out. So I'm sure we'll get more. Rockstar has always been really tight-lipped about their. I mean, like, they have some holes in their ship, but as a game that is as big as this, has as many developers on it, and has as much money thrown at it, they've done a really good job of keeping Grand Theft Auto development secret in the past and currently. So with a trailer like this, if this is legitimately in-engine footage, there has been a lot of work done on this game already. We're probably looking at 2 to 3 years of solid dev time already on this game, if not more.
I mean...
being the dev cycle for some of these games can be up to 10 years, it wouldn't be surprising to me that, already we're several years into this development cycle.
Oh, yeah. How do you not start working on the next game as soon as you release the other one?
Well... that's not uncommon now with the way games as a service.
Yeah, like I mean, at least storyboarding it, right?
Yeah.
Like where
for sure,
especially with a massively successful title like Grand Theft Auto, you always got to have the next one in the chamber, right?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah,
or at least DLCs and more story for it. So
yeah. Well, as more news comes out for Grand Theft Auto 6, we will keep you in the loop. That's you, homeboy. Joshua, what did I tell you about your phone? You have an auto playing ad on your thing.
Sorry, guys.
Oh boy! All right, now that's over.
I don't know if I can trust that article now.
No, not well. I mean, do you have to now? Because we're moving on to the next one.
Yep. Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Which is a story about Bungie. They're moving from one huge developer to the next one here. Now, Sony acquired Bungie, maker of Halo and current maker of Destiny 2. Now, Bungie has not been doing super well. It has missed some of its last quotas, some of its last goals. When Bungie was bought a couple of years ago by Sony for the paltry amount of $3.6 billion, well, yeah, that seemed like a lot of money up until
Activision Blizzard.
Activision Blizzard, right? So it's one of the things is that it would remain an independent subsidiary because that's after it separated out from Microsoft. It kind of got entangled with Activision Blizzard, ironically, for a little while, and then bought itself out of there, and then got bought up by Sony, but wanted to remain as independent as they could. And Sony agreed to that, so long as the dollars roll in. Now, the dollars have not been rolling in. So in their last release, oh boy, what was that called? Sorry guys, I had this written down. So the
Lightfall expansion?
Yes, the final shape. So if the Lightfall expansion was the last one, the final shape is its upcoming expansion. If this is their last expansion hit about 45% less than projected sales. So if this one doesn't hit its projected number, Sony is thinking about disbanding the entire board of Bungie, coming in and it just being a full-on Sony ran entity. Which is scary for the 1,100 people that work at Bungie, because just a month ago, they faced 100 layoffs. So when a big corporation like Sony takes full control and they have they would be sending in some of their own dev teams and their own monitoring teams on this because, losing money, got to bring it in. A lot of those people are going to be laid off. So this is kind of in this year in the video game industry, this is just kind of another story in it. So I'm kind of worried for Bungie. I haven't played Destiny 2, unfortunately. I don't think I'm going to either. But yeah, if they don't hit the mark here, Sony might be cleaning house at this old company here where storied games have been made.
Yeah, to be honest, at the end of the day, I'm not terribly surprised. Bungie was famous for their innovation. Mm-hmm. They pushed they made a game that was so epic in scope that had not really been seen up until that point on anything but the PC. They put it on a brand new console, the Xbox. They become the flagship name for Xbox.
Yep.
Without Halo, the Xbox wouldn't have done nearly as well and may not have ever
been.
Well, I mean, you would have had the original Xbox, but the success of the Xbox was driven almost wholly by Halo. Halo 2, one of the most anticipated games of all time.
I waited outside to buy it.
And so did millions of people. It had, at the time, it was the biggest release date for a game ever. Halo 3 wasn't as big of a drop as Halo 2 was, but it saw another additional console generation. So not only that, but they were innovators. Their previous titles were always larger than life, but they always stayed on a platform because they were Mac exclusive. They always stayed on a platform that would never do terribly well in sales. They took a risk with Halo that definitely paid off. But when they started getting bored of doing the Halo franchise, and because of licensing, they, partnering with Microsoft turned into, it became a partially owned Microsoft property, turned into, if we don't want to make this game anymore, we've got to sell it off. Having to sell it off to 343, which granted was a lot of ex-Bungie employees that are now working for Microsoft. They didn't have another property that they were working on. So before they let go of Halo, they didn't have concrete plans for what was to come. And what ultimately came, which is Destiny, which is the only thing they've pushed since Halo. It didn't do the first game didn't do as well as they thought it would, because it wasn't the game-changing experience that they thought they had with Halo. And then Destiny 2 wasn't even that much of an improvement on the original Destiny. It just allowed for better multiplayer.
Yeah, so I feel like Destiny, when it first came out, was kind of like the poster child for live service games. Like, a lot of live service was modeled around that. So, I mean, initially some success there, but really what we're laying out here is kind of a grim, what seems like a grim story, a grim position for a company for the last 20 years has strived valiantly to remain independent. Well, that might become coming down crashing.
They didn't even strive to be that independent, though. I mean, they've gone where there is money.
That's
to Microsoft, to Activision Blizzard, to Sony. While they may claim independence, they've been very dependent on their publishers, especially lately, where they're not making as much money as they should. They've been looking for cash infusion after cash infusion to ensure that they can make as big of a game as possible. But what they're doing is putting out another. What they ended up doing with Destiny is putting out another pretty multiplayer shooter.
Yeah, that's not very.
I'm sorry, it's just not that. It's not that exciting.
Yeah.
Halo does that.
Yeah, Halo does that. It's
Granted,
still doing
you
that.
You don't have the MMO like mechanics of Destiny and Halo. You're not joining a few other friends and doing a raid, and you're not doing content that you can do over and over in Halo. But with Destiny, it's not an MMO. It doesn't do anything that any other shooter didn't do, except for more narrative-driven multiplayer content. It's not innovative. It's not that great looking of a game. There have been lots of bug issues throughout the history. Like, it's got a storied history with bugs, and it just Do you expect anything different than failure if your game does not take off, but you double down in that game? Like, it's one thing to see an indie developer put an indie game or put an indie title out that doesn't fly off the shelves until a big streamer gets a hold of it and then it gets popular. You are already putting millions and millions of dollars into it and should know that if it doesn't pop immediately, if the sales don't happen immediately, then maybe it isn't what you should be putting the next decade of your development time into. At the end of the day, it feels like Bungie shot themselves in the foot. Destiny 1 didn't land the way you meant it to. It hemorrhaged players after the first few months when people realized that the 80-hour plus leveling experience wasn't that the maps were not endlessly expanded or endlessly huge, where you were in effectively an arena in every map. didn't fulfill their promises. What they put out was kind of a lame duck, and while a lot of people did have fun with it, it just wasn't enough to sustain the player population that is required to develop a franchise.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, if you want to make a comparison, like Grand Theft, like we were just talking about Grand Theft Auto, GTA Online has it's massive.
Its
right?
map is endless in scope.
Yeah.
Its playability, its replayability is huge.
Yeah.
Its online presence is massive. And they allow things like modding servers to then take it into the next era with RP. So what has Bungie done to better their game is they've just put out expansion after expansion. Yeah. And while the shooting mechanics may be good and solid, you're getting more story, etc. That is, as far as games as a service goes, is that enough? Well, I would have said the writing was on the wall a long time ago. It probably isn't. Yeah. And when you have investors like Activision Blizzard, who are richer than God, and Sony, who is richer than Jesus, wanting you to enrich them further, and you fail to do so, like, what do you expect?
Yeah,
it's bound to. And I'm sad to see that. I'm sad to see what used to be a game company that I just trusted with my money.
Yeah.
When Halo 3 came out, I was in line, ready to buy not only the game but the hardware. I bought an Xbox 360 on the release night of Halo 3. I bought a console to play a game. And granted, I played a lot more than Halo 3 on my Xbox 360. But I trusted Bungie so much based on their track record thus far that I was willing to invest in a console that I didn't already own just to play their game, even if that was the only game that I was going to play on that console. So, you know, by the time Halo 4 was out, that love was just kind of gone.
Yeah. Now, I would say it's kind of fair. It's fair to say that it's I don't know, maybe it is the decision makers that retained their spots on the board that are the problem here.
Could be. Bungie certainly has a problem.
Yeah. It does. Sony says Sony says they have a problem.
Yeah.
And Sony has the purse strings. So if they say you have a problem, you got a problem.
Yep.
So we'll see after this the final shape launches how that does, but I wouldn't be surprised to hear there's a whole new creative board at Bungie after the new year. Now,
I know it sounds like I've been shitting on Bungie. That's not really my intention here.
No. I don't think you were being unfair at all.
I'm being critical. I'm certainly being critical, and I wish nothing but the best of Bungie for their future endeavors and for the employees at Bungie. They've already been hit with one round of layoffs this year, and I hope that their next expansion is successful and it does everything they want for them. But if you don't have another IP in the works, then I don't see success for Bungie coming forward. I just don't, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, and anything when we're despair is it's definitely not against the workers or any codings or anybody making the game. It's no one actually making the game is decided what route the story is taking, how much effort is being put into maintaining servers or bugs or, they don't get to decide that. So we're obviously not talking about them.
No, of course not. Yeah. I'm creative is, they're not responsible for how much money the game makes. If they make a good story, if they make a good product, they're not responsible. Now, before we finish on this, I just want to make it clear. I don't mean to shit on Bungie. It feels like they put all their eggs in one basket, and that basket's been on fire for a while.
Yeah, I mean, isn't, I guess, like if I'm thinking back on it, Bungie kind of has always been an eggs in one basket kind of a place, you know?
Yeah, I mean, they work on one game at a time, and usually that game is really good. But Destiny just hasn't been it. I'm sorry, I like Halo was magic in a bottle, man,
Yeah.
and creating another Halo with a narrative and the multiplayer aspect that you did, it's novel, but it just didn't land the way I think they thought it would. It doesn't have the staying power that I think they thought it would. You got to remember that MMO players drop off, man, and if you are using the MMO model, you're gonna have entire months or a year where there's a lack of content and those players do not return. And that is just the way it is. The reason that Call of Duty's drop, like the cadence in which they drop new games is the way it is. The reason it's a year after year endeavor is to keep people's attention and give them multiple properties. And if you're, I feel like if you, Bungie, had done that model, maybe there would be something to it. But the release cadence of your expansions isn't fast enough. And the fact that it's an MMO like means that you're losing the attention of your players. And when you lose the attention of your players, the next expansion may not sell as well as the next and the next and the next. So
on and so forth. Yeah.
Yeah, it just, I mean, we've seen this in the MMO space for a long time, and that is the best comparison that you can draw is while Destiny's on an MMO, they're releasing their content in an MMO cadence. And if your following isn't big enough, it's just not going to happen. I, as a consumer myself, I am not looking at getting into Destiny 2 in its, 8th year, 7th expansion or whatever it is. I'm just not. And I think that's the same for most people at this time is why would I want to get into a game that's 7 years old that has its fan base and and does it do anything new that I'm not doing already? Like I already have a few good competitive shooters that I play.
Well, and Bungie did earlier this year. It had announced that it was working on an extraction shooter, Marathon, but that's already been delayed to 2025 when it was supposed to release in 2024.
Yeah, so. I mean, development work on it is. Here's the thing, though, is we're talking about an extraction shooter when extraction shooters have already been
I was going to say
popular for a couple years.
Exactly, they're not. It's not ahead.
No,
that's why I brought it up.
Way behind.
It's an extraction shooter, and I feel like those are.
Not only are they getting long in the tooth, so to speak, but you're
already seeing different variations of them, like deeper, darker, like where it's like you can't just be a shooter. We got to have a D&D theme. I said that wrong, didn't I? It's not deeper, darker, is it?
No, it's dark and darker.
Dark and darker, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's been out so long that you missed the hype train on extraction shooters. And now we're getting the dregs of the extraction shooters. Right now, people are releasing the games that are already too late to jump on that hype train. So
exactly, like Ubisoft's releasing an extraction shooter. Come on.
Yeah.
No, I'm just.
I don't
mind shitting on Ubisoft.
Sure, but yeah, it's just. I think it's too little, too late for Marathon.
Yeah.
What? Who knows? Maybe it could be. Maybe it could be the game changer, right? Like that. Maybe that ends up being the tentpole of extraction shooters, and it even revitalizes the genre. Who knows? But it does feel like too little, too late, as far as that's concerned. Is that all you got to talk about, Bungie?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, that kind of sums it up for how Sony feels about Bungie.
I feel like I just don't have too much good to say.
Yeah,
I don't want to stay on that negative.
Yeah, we can go ahead and
for too long.
Scooch on through that. I think I got everything I needed out of there.
Yeah, I'm an outside observer, and while I report on video game news and stuff, and I keep in the loop, it's just how do the investors not see this coming? Anyways, in lighter news, I've been playing something. It's a little something called World of Warcraft. Weird, I know, right? It's not like I ever talk about that at all. I briefly want to talk about my experience playing Season of Discovery. It has been awesome. It has been new. It has been funky and fresh, and I'm into it. I'm in like Flynn, man. It is classic World of Warcraft. It feels like classic World of Warcraft. When I jump in, I get all the same nostalgia, the member berries that come back to me. You hear the Duratar soundtrack kicking for the first time, and you're like, it's comfortable here. But they've done a few things to shake it up. Like, I was outside of Razor Hill playing my Troll Mage, as I am wont to play during Classic Revitalization. And I hear what sounds like a shaman casting lightning shield around me, like, all the time. Like, what the hell is this? And I'm actually like wandering around trying to, like, it happens every minute or so. I'm like, where the hell is this happening? And I'm listening in my stereo headphones, my character's looking left. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to maintain this view for another few seconds. It goes off. I hear it a little bit in my right ear cup. It sounds like it's coming from a little bit over there. And I end up following it to like a shaman totem sticking in the ground, and it's called the Galvanic Icon.
Ooh.
I'm like, ooh, this is neat. I can tell it's already not for me. I'm a troll mage. I have nothing to do with totems, etc. I'm thinking, okay, well, whatever. This is a shaman thing. But then lightning comes down and hits the icon. I'm like, okay, it's just neat. It's cool. Well, it turns out that galvanic icon can pop up several places around Duratar, and shamans get something from it. I imagine something like Lightning Shield. I don't know what comes from it. It's new. It's the season of discovery.
That's kind of
I'm
cool.
discovering it. I run into a giant Makrura, which is a lobster beast about the size of my troll, and it's covered in ice. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Well, it is an enemy, so I shoot it with a frostbolt, and it does nothing. I'm thinking, okay, it says immune. Well, that makes sense. The thing is covered in ice,
yeah.
So let's try fire. When I throw a fireball at it, I get a 1 second ticker timer on the enemy's health pool. So it's got a little debuff, and it says needs to get hotter. And I'm thinking, okay, well maybe if I use rank 1 fireball, then rank 1 or rank 2 fireball, and then I use my fire blast, I'll be able to melt this ice. Well, that's not enough. You know what you got to do? You got to party with other fire users, whether it be shaman, warlock, or mage, to use fire spells at it simultaneously to get hot enough to melt that ice. And when you melt that ice, you get a new runic ability, something that you can enchant a piece of your gear with that changes the way your class works.
Well, that's kind of neat.
It is super neat. Another thing that happened really early on was I got a little quest that told me I was going to get Ice Lance. Now, Ice Lance doesn't exist in vanilla World of Warcraft. That's something that comes much later in Warcraft. I'm pretty sure in Cataclysm. No, I think Ice Lance existed in Burning Crusade, but mechanically different than later versions of World of Warcraft.
Okay.
And so I go along my merry way. I've got an instant cast that I don't usually have as a mage. So I have a way that's low mana cost, instant cast, to get the last 11 hit points of an enemy down. Whereas normally I'd usually have to cast, a 2.5 second cast timer Frostbolt, and use 35 mana. Instead, I use 15 mana and I hit it for half of the damage, right? So it mechanically
Hell yeah, that
changes my mage early in the game the way that nothing has before. Well, I'm doing my questing. I'm doing the regular questing. I'm over on the Echo Isles, the troll area just outside of the den in South Duratar. And I have to do the quest where I kill Zalazane. This is a quest that you did with us. You kill Zalazane, some voodoo trolls, some hex trolls, and you take a skull from a pile of skulls. And that's early troll and orc gameplay. And it's a quest that you normally do in your regular World of Warcraft vanilla or classic experience. So I kill Zalazane. And I've done all the pulling that I need to, all the hex trolls, all the voodoo trolls. I get a good clean kill on Zalazane. No party needed. I'm soloing this trash. And Zalazane drops a scroll that I can transcribe into an ability called Fingers of Frost, which is another ability that comes in a later expansion for World of Warcraft. This one, I believe, came in Cataclysm. Fingers of Frost gives me a proc. So whenever I cast a spell that might freeze or slow somebody, I have a chance at popping this ability, Fingers of Frost. It's a buff. And all it does is any of my frost spells used against an enemy would trigger as if the enemy was frozen.
Oh.
So in the frost skill tree for mages, you can turn spells into spells that would freeze your target. So Frostbolt will have a 25% chance to freeze a target when they take damage from it. Well, this eliminates my need for that, because now sometimes my enemy is treated as if he's already frozen.
They're just frozen, yeah.
Meaning that all of my frost spells will now do additional damage to it. So I'm casting my Frostbolt as I normally would. Now, Frost Mage is a single button, like, you are just a Frostbolt machine. It's all you ever need. Is Frostbolt in classic versions of World of Warcraft.
As fast as you can click it.
You put it on one. You don't need to put any other abilities on there if you're just doing PvE. You just don't. As far as regular questing, that's aside from AoE grinding. That's aside from doing dungeons and raiding, etc. But as a Frost Mage, your number one spell is Frostbolt. Well, occasionally I get that Fingers of Frost proc, and now my Ice Lance that costs me less mana and is instant casts does as much damage as my Frostbolt, and does even more damage than my Frostbolt on crit. So
suddenly you got a second button.
Suddenly I'm kind of a fucking damage cannon. I'm using less mana than I would normally. So those things, they're all really cool. I did look ahead. Now it's Season of Discovery, not Season of Read Wowhead. So yeah. I'm not going to Wowhead to find where these runes are, because I want to discover them naturally out in the world. I know some of them are probably going to be locked behind the raid. Some of them are probably going to be locked behind some dungeon bosses or quests or whatever. But so far, while just doing my normal thing, I've ran into 3 runes that change the way my character works. And that is cool. Now, I do know that Mage get healing runes later that turn Arcane Mage into a healer.
That's fancy.
I think is pretty interesting. So it gives more mechanics to a class than it had previously.
Is there PvP?
There is, yeah.
It's
open world. It's classic. So
okay.
The whole world is open to you. All the regular features of classic.
Because that's going to change up. That's really going to change the meta of PvP.
Yeah.
These runes.
Yeah.
It's
going to change. There's going to be a lot of imbalance. There's going to be stuff that just isn't balanced. But for me, that's exciting. That's fun.
Well, how long has it been since there's been something like that in WoW, where it's like, oh, this is truly something like
you get new stuff with every expansion, but this is very different.
This is very different.
This is changing classic. This is changing the World of Warcraft experience, especially if they continue on with this. Like, if this is going to be an ongoing thing made separately from your classic Cataclysm, classic Mists of Pandaria, classic Warlords of Draenor, or your classic Hardcore, or your retail experience. If this is its own thing and continues on going the way it is, it's a very different game than the World of Warcraft that we have now, especially considering that they are absolutely changing the dynamics of how most classes work. You have tanking shamans, which are right now the preferred tank. You have tanking warlocks, which people just discovered. It was told to us during BlizzCon that tanking warlocks would be a thing. Well, you get the Metamorphosis spell. It turns you into a melee demon.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of your spells are now considered melee abilities, and they produce additional threat. You also get a lot more armor and health being a demon.
A demon, yeah.
It's awesome. They made DPS warrior super viable. They made DPS paladin super viable, and they've done interesting things. So it's not just that I'm excited about. Talking with one of my coworkers about it recently, one of my friends, I started to realize that there is even more potential for this Season of Discovery. So the level cap in Season of Discovery is level 25, but the whole classic world is open to you. So everything that was available to you in vanilla it's there. The later leveling areas, the later dungeons, the later raids, it's all there. You just can't really do a lot of the content because the level cap is level 25. But I'm thinking, okay, well, they plan on increasing the level cap later at some point, introducing the abilities that you would normally get in your leveling experience, introducing new runes that are going to change the mechanics of your class. But before they do that, the end game currently is locked at 25. You're doing level 25 specific, around level 25 specific content. But what's to stop you from jumping into something that's level 32? Like
There's nothing, right?
Yeah, because
Nothing.
you have Black Fathom Depths, which was classically a 5-man raid, which dropped appropriate level gear. But now that stuff is like your best in slot gear. And what's to stop you from getting raid geared? Like, you now have your best in slot for your level. Like, you've gone to Wowhead, you have found all of the best in slot gear for your character. It's been simmed, it's it's been tested, and it's the most damage output, or it's the most defense that you can have, et cetera, et cetera. You are now the best that your class can be at level 25 with this new content. What's to stop you from doing like Scarlet Monastery Library, which typically you'd want to be around level 30 or 32 for?
Not a darn thing.
There really isn't.
Just your own moxie.
You're going to be effectively as powerful as you can be. And what do you have to do at level 25 other than experience the end game content that there is at level 25?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be fun to see how deep you could take that hero.
Me too. I'd like to see if this means that content that already exists in the game, that has existed for 20 years almost now, is going to be actually challenging.
Yeah.
For like all groups, even the best of the best will be actually challenging, but will have rewards that may not even reward you now, but reward you in the future when the new content unlocks. Like, what happens when you're already geared up for content that goes above and beyond the content that you weren't even supposed to be experiencing in the game yet? That's kind of
for WoW to have something seemingly uncharted in front of them is, well, that's kind of fun.
Yeah, because the end game's always been the end game. That's the most powerful it gets, and then it stops for a long time.
It's uncharted in a very familiar place.
Yeah. What's to stop you?
Boy, they did it again.
What's to stop you from being the richest enchanter on the server? Because you were willing to go out into zones that were too high level for you and pull mobs that were too high level for you in the chance that you get a new inscription training, right? Or an enchanting scroll.
Wow.
So you now know enchanting that like nobody else on the server does because you've been willing to put in the work. What happens to miners and blacksmiths when they go way above their level range? Like, they're just willing to spend hours
to get that metal, baby.
to running out there, dying to mobs that are way too high level for them, to rezzing, doing corpse run after corpse run after corpse run, just so they can get that mithril vein.
Yeah.
So they can get that mithril that nobody's prepped to wear yet, but they're going to sell their mithril chain vest on the auction house for 25,000 gold.
Yeah.
Because that's not even usable yet, right? So I'm just thinking about like what that does to the player economy and what that does to how that benefits players that are really willing to put in as much time as they can and grind hard.
Well, and there's some crafty motherfuckers that are playing WoW. They'll figure it out.
Like, why wouldn't you like main your mage, right? But maybe roll a rogue. So you can be in stealth in those high level areas, mining those nodes, and get that node mined before, like, from 400 meters away, like 70 creatures form in around you and murder you, right? What's to stop you from doing that? There's nothing right now. And,
man.
Like, right now, the season of discovery is a good time to get rich and popular and have a lot of fun, man. So, yeah, I'm having a blast, man, especially just with my own inner brain canon of what the possibilities are for Season of Discovery, just because of a level 25 level cap. Not even the necessarily the changes to classes, but just the possibilities of being level 25 and having that cap, but extra content, in front of you.
But of having to being able to game the system just like a little bit in an unintended way.
Yeah,
that's
Well, I'm sure the development team for this is huge, and probably everybody that's on it is smarter than I am. They probably know that, right? So, but that's secondary for most people. I think that Season of Discovery has not only been fun mechanically, and the game is supposed to be, but the meta game surrounding it is also really cool
and still forming. Because as the next little bit comes out, or as a balance comes out for these classes, or as that next rune comes out, who the fuck knows what's going to change the meta of the classes next?
Totally,
like that.
100%, man.
Boy, that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we don't see a whole lot of tuning for balance.
Now
in
let
the
that
form.
shit shake out natural.
Yeah, I, don't,
You know?
I hope that we're not seeing it in the form of hot fixes. What I'd rather see is that, like, if classes that are underpowered for this season of Discovery, when they put out the new content, give them more powerful runes.
Yeah.
Make them a little bit more powerful. And maybe, hopefully, that balances out. Because if they take that approach, I think that will be fun and refreshing for what is supposed to be a near classic experience.
A new, fun, and refreshing way to play an old game, right?
Yeah, and so far, so good, man. I think Season of Discovery, they've done a great job with. Do I think they could have done more or less or different? Sure. That's all subjective. I think maybe more runes would have been fun. Like, my mage can get 12 right now. There are 12 available runes. I know that because it even tells me in my character panel I have 3 out of 12 collected so far. So do I think they could have put in more for more content? Yeah, sure. Maybe it would have improved the longevity of this patch, but who knows? I don't know how quick the cadence is going to be for the patch releases. Maybe we have one coming out in 3 months, and
yeah, we're nipping at empty air here.
Because the only thing they have to do is make a new raid, and all they're doing there is changing an existing one so far. So all they got to do is make a new raid. All they got to do is put out some new runes, which effectively they're just putting out abilities that have been in the game at one point or another in its history now. So, I mean, they are changing some things. Like, now Earthshock is just straight up a tanking ability for shamans. That's, new and different, but not so new and different. Like, it always says that it produced high threat. Now it's just actually used in a tanking role because they've given the ability to shamans to tank. So it's interesting, man. I'm digging it so far. I'm definitely playing it through it slowly. It's been out for a little over a week now, I believe. 2 weeks. A little over 2 weeks, I think. It's been fun. I think I picked the wrong server. It's getting a little light on people when we're not in prime time, but hopefully not. Hopefully
picks back up for you.
Yeah, hopefully it picks back up. We'll see. We'll find out. But so far, so good, man. I'm enjoying it immensely in the short time that I've been able to spend with it, and hope to continue to do so. Yeah, man, I love it.